Hi and welcome. Let's talk a little bit about qualitative data analysis and AI, artificial intelligence. Actually, I want to show you something that I've worked on over the last couple of weeks. The early ideas go back to a presentation I had back in June at the annual meeting of the German section for qualitative methods in the German Sociological Associations. Yes, I presented and discussed early ideas there, and then over the last month, I worked on refining this a little bit and especially implementing it also in software, which is of course a whole other task. Yeah, and I implemented it in QualCoder, which is a software package for qualitative data analysis that has been around for quite a while. You may know it, but up until now, it didn't include any AI-based functionality, and I added something there. Yeah, but it's not so much about the software as such and the particular function. I mean, I will show you later. Yes, but it's really it's more like a new approach to not to qualitative data analysis as a whole, but to a very fundamental process in qualitative data analysis, at least in many methods, and that is the process of coding. Yeah, exploring, making sense of your data through coding. And I would suggest a little bit different approach here, enhanced by AI, that I call horizontal coding. And I will, of course, explain what I mean by this and also show you what I mean by that. Yeah, but in the beginning, this software implementation was kind of meant to be a little bit more like a proof of concept, so to say. But actually, I think it works quite well. So it's a beta version, and there will be errors for sure. Yeah, but I think it's actually usable in real research. Let's look for a moment at the usual process of coding, how we go about that usually, yes, especially when we use software. So, I mean, yes, normally it doesn't really matter. I come more from a grounded theory approach, but I think it's not very different if you do content analysis or thematic analysis or whatever. All these methods that work with this very basic and fundamental process of categorizing your data, coding it, and comparing it then. Yeah. So, I mean, what you do is you start with some document, transcript of an interview or whatever. Yes. You start at the top and you read through the text and you look what is interesting for your research question. And you find something and then you attach a code to it. Yeah, this can be a code that you develop in the moment. If you're doing inductive coding, this can be a code that is already in your code system. If you do deductive coding, doesn't matter, yes? But yeah, what also happens in this moment, oftentimes, when we first approach our data, when we first question it, well, how can we relate the data to our research question? Yes, and we do this through coding. What also happens in this situation oftentimes is that we have a lot of good ideas how we could explore this topic a little bit deeper, what to compare with other cases, questions that come to our mind, ideas, concepts, maybe for subcategories or for other things here. Many good ideas, and it would be, I would say, the most natural thing now to follow these ideas and to compare it with other data, other cases, and really dive deep into this topic, yes, that we just discovered. Yeah, but usually we can't do that because, I mean, how should we find these pieces of data that we need to do that are kind of scattered all over our empirical corpus, all over our documents, yes? So what we usually do is we write all these things down, or what we should do, we write all these things down, these ideas, questions, and so on, writing it in a memo or something, and keeping it for later and hopefully come back to it later and find it back later. Yes, and then we have to continue. I mean, we have to continue with the next paragraph, with the next concept, the next topic in our document and go through all the documents from top to bottom and code them. And then we can use the code system to find the pieces of data that are related to this code, and then we can start to compare and everything. Yeah? But yeah, really, this first moment where all these good ideas are, we have to kind of hold back because we have to go through all our material first. Yeah? In a way, from top to bottom, that I would call vertical coding, so to say. Yeah? And my idea is really to change exactly this. Yeah? I mean, large language models and AI is very good at reading large text corpora and is also quite good, not perfect, but quite good also in understanding this. Yes. So the idea is really that I have we can use the AI to suggest new other pieces of data that we can use to explore this topic a little bit further. Yes, really to not hold back, to follow these ideas, these questions, these concepts that you have when you first approach your analysis. Yes, follow them, follow the topics, the questions in a way horizontally through your material, not necessarily vertical through every single transcript, but follow the topic, follow a certain question, a concept, a certain problem that people struggle with, whatever, yes, what might be interesting for you. So that's basically the whole idea of horizontal coding, yeah, changing it so that we can go deeper into a single topic and a single question, a single problem, and not having to go through all our documents first. And also this kind of mental overload that we often have if we go through our material and must have all these ideas, all these codes and concepts and questions, keep them in our minds at the same time. Yeah, here we can really focus and go deeper into a single question and explore it, and then come back and explore the next topic. Yeah, of course, that's the idea. In a way, this is like in a good research team. Maybe you know that, yeah. If you have this one person that really knows your data, that has read every single transcript of every single interview, every single field note or document that you collected, yeah, and is really good in memorizing this data and can tell you, hey, if you want to go analyze this topic a little bit deeper, there's in interview number 27 or something on page 18 in the transcript, there's an interesting story that the person tells that is going to help you to understand better how people, I don't know, deal with a certain problem or something. Yeah, you should look into that. Yeah, and this is really, I mean, every good research project needs such a person. It's so helpful. And of course, AI cannot replace this. Yeah, but at least to some extent, maybe a little bit, fulfill this role. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Okay, so let's take a look. This is the main window of QualCoder in the beginning. Yes, I mean, you can call this user interface minimalistic. You can also call it maybe a little bit old-fashioned, but it's a very capable app. Yeah, it's really, and it's also not very difficult to use once you understand the ideas. I have loaded some data in here. You can manage files. I have lots of interview transcripts loaded in here. These interviews are not from me, but it's interviews from a study that the Irish historian Mary Muldowney made back in 2005, interviews with Irish women about their experiences during the Second World War. Mary Muldowney kindly published this material under a Creative Commons license, and also, of course, with the full consent of the interviewees. So I can use it here, I can show it here in this video and use it for this analysis. Let's go to code text, because for the time being this only works with text. So you have this window here where you have these texts here, your empirical document, and you have your code tree here in the bottom. And as you can see, that not many codes, because I've just started with the first transcript. That is the transcript of Alice, just the first in the list, you know. And I started reading, and something that really caught my eye from the very beginning was how she's talking about work and the meaning of work. Really, in the first few lines, I mean, here she's talking about her mother, and her mother, which became a widow quite early in her 20s, yeah, and then had to work hard to bring the family up, to feed the children and so on. And then just a few lines later, Alice is talking actually about her own first job. When I started work, I started a very interesting job. I loved it, making chocolates. Yeah. Then she talks a little bit about how this goes on, and then concludes, my time at this baker, Omo Baker, I would say were amongst the happiest years. They were all happy. They were very special. I think it was because of wartime. How this relates to wartime, I mean, that's a second question we have to keep for later. But what really pops out here is these very different meanings of work. Yeah, it's a really strong contrast. So being forced to search for paid work, yes, for employment because there's no social security, or to be really enjoy going to work, to really be really passionate about work and so on. This is also a little bit a research question of the project from Mary Maldoni, how the war times changed gender roles and especially the role of work for women. And it's very interesting, I think, to explore a little bit more how these other women, how they perceive going to work, what kind of meaning does work have for them in their lives. Yeah. So, I mean, usually we would now write this down in a memo or something and then continue coding the rest of the document. But now let's try to explore this a little bit further. On the top here we have, beside this Documents tab, we have the new tab AI Search. And up until now this is empty here, yes, but we can now start our search here, and then we can select the code. You can see we have the codes again here. You can select the code as a necessity. We could also do a free text search. Yeah, here's a tab for a free text search also, but we now want to explore the code. And we could also filter and only look in certain documents or certain cases and so on. But I'm going to skip this. I'm going to just look in all documents, so no filter here, and select this code and click OK. And now the AI starts to search, and this is a two-step process. It takes a while. Yeah, so please be patient here a little bit. It may take a minute or so until the search is completed and we can see the first results, and I will speed up the video now so that we can look at the results. Okay, so now we have a list of results here on the left side. Yes, and let's look what the AI found for us. And I mean, we will definitely also find things in here that are not really related to our codes. I mean, this is not perfect, yeah, and this is also why I'm a little bit skeptical about doing kind of automated coding. Yeah, it's really something. But I mean, let's have a look. So this is from another interview with Colette, yeah, and she's saying, okay, she's talking about the greatest horror of my childhood was what people would do if they were out of work. Okay, this seems to be a little bit a different type of necessity to work, so to say, this topic. But I think let's look at the context a little bit. I mean, this is very important, of course. Yeah, you cannot pick this single quote. You have to see it in context, and this is why the document is opened here, and you can see all the context. There was no facility for getting any. If you didn't work, you got nothing, you couldn't earn anything, and so on and so on. So it's really, I mean, yes, I think this fits very well. I would extend the selection here a little bit. It's about, in fact, it's about this economic necessity because social welfare is kind of absent. Yes. So I'm extending the quotation a little bit, and then I'm going to quote this here. Usually I would now continue reading a little bit also to maybe find more in the vicinity of this. Yes, but let's now look at the AI suggested results. Okay, so let's look just at the next one from Sheila, another interview, and she's saying everybody contributed from the start. Again, I mean, you see these quotations that these quotes that the AI selected are usually if you only take this quote, it's not very meaningful. You have to always look at the context, you know. Ah, yeah, okay, I see. She's talking about wages, and then they contributed to the income of the family, I think. Yeah, so everybody contributed from the start. This is what she's talking about. Yeah, and mostly it went on food, and mostly it went on the house, and you know, and so on. I would say let's include this at least also. Otherwise, it's not really clear what she's talking about here. But let's include this, and yes, I think we can code it with work as a necessity. One thing, I mean, it's also, you can also look a little bit on the interpretation that the AI came up with. But to be honest, I've kind of hidden this a little bit from view in the user interface, because I think the best thing is to really focus on the data, and that we try to understand and interpret the data, and not letting the AI do the interpretation or analysis for us. Of course, there's a lot of interpretation going on behind the scenes, so to say, to select the data. But then I think it's really upon us to decide whether this fits or not, yes? But I mean, if you want to kind of have a second opinion or something like this, you can also look at what the AI thinks about this piece of data. And you do this by hovering your mouse over this item here, and then there came this tooltip where you have the AI things. This excerpt highlights the collective effort and necessity of work to provide for basic needs and comfort in the household, aligning with the code work as a necessity. Sorry, it moved away again. Yeah, work as a necessity. So yeah, you can also get some arguments and some reasoning from the AI, but I've kind of hidden this a little bit so that we can really focus on the data more than letting the AI do the interpretation for us. Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting to really be in a kind of a discourse or with the AI, looking at the interpretation that GPT-4 comes up with and your own thoughts, and then compare this a little bit. It can be very, I mean, for a brainstorming process or something, it can be very good. Yeah, I will stop this here now. I think you get the idea. Yes, and I mean, one thing, if you really explore the data in this way, in this horizontal way, I mean, we made a lot of observations already. We are already, I mean, we just started, but we are already in the middle of our investigation, of our data exploration, and keep track of these observations that you that you make along the way. Yeah, and I think one topic that really pops out is here the absence of a social welfare system, or just that it is simply too low. Yeah, and that is one very important reason. Not so much that the men were away in the war or something, yeah, but really it seems that everybody had to work and contribute to family income. Oftentimes, I mean, maybe not really so much related with the war, yeah, because simply the social welfare system was so low. Yeah, so I think this is something you could write a memo now, or you could have a second document where you write these observations down. But I mean, really keep a record of these observations, because you are in the middle of the analysis already. It's not some kind of pre-stage where you just code. Yeah, you are in the middle of going deep into your data and into this topic. The question is, of course, now, usually we would continue now. We would continue looking at these other pieces of data. Yes, and there's more. There's more. We can click here on Find More, and then the AI is analyzing more data and come up with more results and so on. And of course, the question arises, when do you stop this investigation? Yeah, and I would say, from my experience, usually the AI is always going to try to suggest you new data. But what you will see is that over time, the suggestions kind of deviate away from the original topic that you are looking for, yeah, and become less and less relevant for your analysis there. And I mean, in the end, it's really up to you to decide when to stop. Maybe we could borrow an idea from a grounded theory approach here, and that's the idea of theoretical saturation. Maybe there's something like a code saturation or something, a point really, and I mean, you have to decide, a point where you see that by analyzing more of these suggested pieces of data, there's nothing more really relevant adding to this exploration of this particular problem or topic or thing, yeah. And I think if you reach this point that I would call code saturation, then I think it's a good idea to stop and to move on to other topics. The best way then would be, I guess, to just go back to the original transcript that you started with and just continue with the next paragraph and look what you find there. Or another option would be, if you, during this analysis, yeah, along the way, you may have found other interesting topics to explore, and you make some notes or a list or so, then you can go in here and use the free search, text search, yeah, enter this here and search for that. Yeah, that's also an option how you can continue. Yeah, I hope this quick example made it a little bit clearer what I mean by this horizontal coding process and how the software supports it. I mean, one thing is clear, this is not the big revolution that makes your qualitative data analysis 1000% faster or something, definitely not. I mean, it's a slightly different approach to a very fundamental problem in many qualitative methodologies, the process of coding. And because this is so fundamental, I think it could also change the way we approach qualitative data in a fundamental way. Yes, but it's not the big revolution. So to wrap this video up, I would like to address two questions that may come up. And the one question is about cost, and the second is about data, privacy, and security. So when it comes to cost, I mean, first of all, QualCoder is free and open source software, and of course my contribution to it is also free and open source, so no cost there. Yes, but unfortunately the access to GPT-4 is not free. OpenAI will charge you for that. That's nothing to do with us or me. I'm not earning a commission or anything. Yeah, that's just between you and OpenAI. But the good news is this is very cheap. OpenAI will charge you on a per request basis. And a single request, like I showed in the video here, is very cheap. It's usually in the order of a few cents only. So I mean, cost should really be not a consideration for you. We are dealing not with huge data here, so it's very cheap. Yes, I think as a new user, you might get some free credits at the beginning, but yeah, you have to look. I mean, but really, it's not very cheap. I've experimented a lot with GPT-4 and it's really not very expensive. So, data, privacy, and security. I understand completely that this is, of course, a big concern if you deal with these AI and companies and platforms and models and so on. My approach to this is, I mean, I will try to make it as transparent as possible to you what happens to your data, and then you can decide if this is okay for you or not, okay? So let me explain a little bit what happens with your data. Actually, a lot of things are happening on your machine without the data ever leaving your machine, and only a very few things happen in the cloud, happen at OpenAI platform and so on. So let me explain. If you import a document, an empirical document, there's actually an AI model local on your machine reading through this document and memorizing the contents, okay? And if you then start a search, then the first stage is to search in this local database. And only the pieces of data, small chunks of data, few sentences long or so, only a few of them are then in a second stage sent to OpenAI for further analysis, okay? So never will a whole transcript or whole document be sent over to OpenAI for analysis or something. Only very small chunks. Yeah, this is the first thing. Now let's talk a little bit about OpenAI, and it's important to understand we are not using ChatGPT. We are using GPT-4, the model, via a programming interface and API. And this is mainly meant for companies that want to integrate GPT-4 into the internal processes. Yes, so and this is actually the big business model for OpenAI at the moment. They try to sell this to companies, so they pay for this access to GPT-4. Yes, and there's one thing very, very crucial here. These companies, of course, want to make sure and absolutely sure that their internal information that they send via this programming interface is not used to train the model and then finally end in ChatGPT and well, yes, you know, they are really concerned about data privacy here, and this is what OpenAI promises them, that they won't use this data for training or anything. And I mean, in the end, of course, I mean, we have to trust a little bit OpenAI here, but I tend to believe this promise because it is so at the very center of their business model that I think any problem there would really harm their business model a lot. So I tend to believe them that they are very careful with this data that goes via this programming interface. Yeah, but I mean, this is all I can tell. They promise us that the data is secure and that they won't use it for anything else than just generating an answer for us. Okay, I hope this makes it a little bit clearer what happens to your data. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask, and I try to answer as best as I can. I hope you found this interesting, and I'm very interested actually to see what you come up with in your research, how you use it. If you find any problems, please report them back. It's a beta version, and I'm going to work further on this and try to improve this. Thank you very much for your attention. Bye.